should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Top Rope Nation on this chilly February night as we try to get you ready for this Sunday's WWE Elimination Chamber pay-per-view event. My name is Ryan Drosty, and I am joined here by Justin and Kyle as we get you ready for the pay-per-view, possibly get you ready to win some money. But more on that here in just a second. We'll tell you how you can make some money off of the Elimination Chamber on Sunday night. Play along with us right there at home during the pay-per-view. But honestly, guys, before we get to that, maybe I was a little easy on the weather because it's a little more than chilly out here, at least here in the upper Midwest in Iowa, Justin. It's more of a, I don't know, freaking hellscape outside. How's it going across town, Justin?
Yeah, it's been brutal. I've only had to shovel for about 2 hours this week, so I guess that's a little bit better than last week. But yeah, it's just brutal.
Yeah.
The air hurts your face.
Yeah, man, I'm living like on the edge of town now, and the wind is crazy over here. We gusts like 40 miles per hour last night. Had my whole driveway all cleared out. I get up this morning. I'm not kidding you. The snow is drifted on my sidewalk 6 feet tall. And I know by like
on the edge of town, by the way.
Yes, the boss. That is the best Bruce Springsteen album, "Darkness on the Edge of Town." Yeah, sometimes it's pretty dark out here.
I like that take. Good for you. That's a good, strong take.
I love Bruce Springsteen, "Darkness on the Edge of Town." That is probably my favorite album. Easily, yeah, it's definitely my favorite Boss album, followed by "Born to Run," I would have to say. But it is pretty dark out here on the edge of town and very windy, as I said. And I know the city codes say you got to clean up your sidewalks in the winter, but I am not touching that 6-foot drift. They're going to have to deal with it. So if I get fined, I get fined. Kyle, how are you doing?
Sounds more like global cooling, am I right?
I'm going to hold this snowball right here. How can there be global warming if it's snowing outside? I don't understand.
I hope everything you're saying isn't coming for us, because it was a little chilly, but I don't know. Took the daughter to the Natural History Museum today.
Nice.
And it wasn't, but it's not horrible here.
You mean professional wrestling exhibits at that museum?
Yeah, it's sad.
There should be.
It's sad. It's bad, but it's also bad that it's like letting her run. They have a playground there, like in the basement. And I was like letting her run around while I was checking Twitter for all the latest in wrestling news and stuff. While randomly looking up and screaming, "Don't do that."
Follow him on Twitter, guys, at TRP Kyle. You can follow the show at Top Rope Nation. And for those of you that are just tuning in, you got a lot of new listeners the last couple of weeks. Stick around with us. Subscribe on iTunes. If you're watching here on YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button. It helps out the show. Of course, leave us a review later here in just a minute. Before we get to the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, actually, I'll read our latest iTunes reviews on the air. So if you go to iTunes and give us a 5-star, leave us a review. We'll read it on the air next week. We would appreciate that. And guys, when we get into the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view event preview, I did say our listeners could win some money. Check out WrestleRumble.com. They're partners of the show. $10 for an entry. I think on this one you can win upwards of $500 if you predict the matches right. If you go ahead and predict how long the matches are going to be, they got all kinds of prop bets. Makes watching the pay-per-view a lot of fun. I know myself, Justin, and Kyle every month, we love doing that contest with Wrestle Rumble, seeing if we can beat our listeners. I think one of us has actually won money on this before, if I'm not mistaken. Who was that, Kyle?
Yeah, you finished 2 points ahead of me. That was very disgusting.
It's been a few months, though. I have not even come close to winning since then.
Yeah, it shows what we know.
Yeah, I think Kyle has placed at least since then and won some MVP points. So, check it out, Wrestle Rumble. Also, check out the Twitter account this week at Top Rope Nation. We will be giving away one free entry for one of our listeners. So you can stay tuned on Twitter heading into this weekend to see how you can enter for free. It's a $10 value. So, guys, before we get to the Elimination Chamber preview, there's some topics we wanted to touch on. I think, first of all, we got to talk about this Becky Lynch Charlotte angle from Monday night in particular, because overall, when I was following the show on Twitter, speaking of Twitter, most of the comments were pretty negative about Raw, and I had it DVRing, and I was like, I'm not really having a lot of motivation to watch this show, but the Becky Charlotte stuff really got everyone talking, and I know Kyle, Mr. Kyle Ross in particular, had some strong feelings on what happened on Monday night because he hit me up with a text message the next morning that was pretty entertaining. So take it here, Kyle. What did you think of Monday night?
I thought the angle was great. But the subsequent reaction from a large portion of the online community had me wondering if people have just lost their damn minds and even remember what wrestling is. So let's rewind to last week. I said on this show, and I still feel this way, it honestly was a moot point whether they did Becky versus Ronda straight up or they made it a three-way with Charlotte, because the end result is the same. We're getting what we want, people. Becky Lynch is going to win in the main event of WrestleMania. It's going to happen. But if you looked on Twitter, and at first I wouldn't have known, because most of my feed, I've curated it pretty well, was just people mocking the terrible takes. But then I started seeing the retweeting coming in. You would have thought people forgot what a professional wrestling angle was.
It's true.
And I don't use the term embarrassing lightly, but I'll use it in this regard because you have all these people who think they're smart. They read online, they think they know what goes on behind the scenes. Yet it was just so embarrassing. Do they even understand how wrestling works? I just don't, man. Like somebody tweeted JR, I just don't see how they get Becky back in that match. They took her out with the suspension. Do you not think this Ric Flair birthday celebration they've been randomly promoting for the last 3 weeks is going to turn into an angle with Becky Lynch? By the way, does WWE have the discipline, do we think, to hold Becky off TV all next week, meaning pay-per-view, Raw and SmackDown, to really make that mean something? Because, right, she's obviously coming, interrupting that segment, and then that will lead to a match with Charlotte at Fastlane, which has been advertised locally here in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we get into that, Kyle, for those of you that didn't see it or don't know what we're talking about,
I would hope
for the list
listening to a podcast that they would have known this thing.
Well, summarize what's the main argument here that people have with what they saw Monday night?
What do you mean?
What's the problem? What's the problem people have with
all right, so Charlotte gets put in the bench, and people are like, no, this isn't like a heel. We get it, because, all right, let me back up. Charlotte is this is a very 2019 wrestling in a nutshell thing, right? Because Charlotte being put into the match is to draw more heat based on people who think, WWE is going to try to shoehorn Charlotte, or, might have Charlotte win. That's a wrestling angle, folks. An angle, by definition, is because people are like, well, the promotion's just trolling us, man. They're fucking with their most loyal fans. An angle, by definition, is the promotion manipulating your emotions. That's what pro wrestling is.
Yeah.
So, and I want to go back to something Justin said last week, because I think it's very instructive. Okay. Now, I disagreed with him to the degree which they could lose the crowd or there could be apathy, but he made a point, and it was a good one, I think, that if you just run Becky Ronda straight up, okay, and you don't do any of the Charlotte stuff, okay, you've got 7 weeks of television still until WrestleMania. What are people going to? People are going to get bored. And the thing that people say they want, how much do you want to bet that when WrestleMania comes around, the angle will have already peaked weeks in advance, and they're going to be bored with it, and they're going to think the results too predictable. So, to me, there's a lot of legit criticisms of the WWE. We'll get into them later on, perhaps some of them. But the WWE's kind of fucked if they do, fucked if they don't. Can they not even run angles anymore? Because the stupid part of the fan base gets offended at the idea of being manipulated, which is what wrestling is. You know, I mean, do people need their fucking hand held by the newsletters to understand an angle? Like, it's embarrassing.
Kyle Ross is fired up tonight. I'm loving this.
It was an angle. Like, you're supposed to be mad that Charlotte. Like, if you're mad, you're getting word at Charlotte being thrown into the match. You're supposed. They're doing that to get you mad. If you're getting mad, what they're doing is actually working.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is the entire story of pro wrestling, is it not? Like the cards being stacked against the babyface, and somehow the babyface prevails in the end.
I didn't just think of this. I thought this earlier in the week. One thing that's interesting is the inclusion of Charlotte. It's very clear that they're not going full on heel with Ronda. You know, from Vince's comments at the end of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, Ronda's going to kind of be like the tweener, where she's got, you know, heat with both. And now that's the story. Because remember, I mean, going back, Charlotte being in this match does have storyline sense. It's not like they just pulled this out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, Ronda had the match at Survivor Series. Ronda cost Charlotte, just like Becky in that TLC match against Asuka. You know, they had words. Charlotte and Becky obviously has been, you know, arguably like the hottest feud in the promotion since August, since, you know, they kind of initially bungled that turn, but then they've got the pieces in the right place. And by the way, is Charlotte's character now, I mean, with that promo on SmackDown, which I thought was absolutely tremendous personally, Charlotte her character is exactly what it should be. Right now.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show for a long time. That
Yes.
Charlotte needed to be a hardcore heel.
Yes. Everything, I believe we even went this far. I know I've said this before. Everything that the audience who thinks it's smart but isn't projects onto Roman Reigns is just as true about Charlotte, if not more so. So here's another thing with this dumb audience, okay? With the character they're presenting Charlotte, like how Charlotte's being presented, is exactly how you want Roman Reigns presented.
Yeah. To your point, I think we did have an episode titled Charlotte Flair, also known as Roman Reigns, a couple months ago. Yeah.
And so, I mean, there is an argument still to be made, and I'm not going to dismiss it, that maybe it would be better just to beat Ronda one-on-one. Because, you know, the idea, if you want to, like, because there was a fascinating, it wasn't a debate because it's just one person brought it up, at Alan Cheapshot, who puts a lot of good stuff on Twitter. He talked about taking Becky from being someone who's very, very over and making her into a draw. You know, obviously her access did well, but, you know, a draw, like, you know, where her segments are consistently higher rated than everyone else's and stuff like that. And there maybe is something to the fact that, okay, if she beat Ronda straight up one-on-one, maybe that helps with that to a dwindling casual audience, but I don't know.
Yeah. Let's bring Justin Join into this conversation. He's going to fall asleep over there. Justin, where are you at with Charlotte's inclusion in the match and everything that happened on Monday night?
I'm very angry that they inserted her in the match, and I'm concerned as to how they're going to get Becky back in it. I mean,
Justin Join is the voice of the voiceless here on this podcast tonight.
I just don't get it, man. How is she going to get back in? You know,
I mean, she's suspended
There's
for
no
60
way.
days.
There's no way it's going to happen, guys. This is written in stone.
Remember when Vince won the Royal Rumble in 1999, and Stone Cold just never could find his way to get revenge on The Rock, man? That sucked.
Oh man.
You know,
I think, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, somebody was made, because like all the I don't know if it was just for clicks and this, like, you know, Ryan, you're a little more versed in this than me probably, but like people were writing these headlines: Becky Lynch pulled from Mania main event in favor of Charlotte. People like writing it like it was like a storyline, as if it was like a news item.
Yeah.
And people were joking, like, if these sites were around in the year 2000, you know, Big Show is set to main event WrestleMania against Triple H.
Yeah,
Like,
it is kind of a weird balance with that, I will say, writing a comic book, because you don't want to sound like you're writing in storyline mode, but like sometimes, I don't know, you have to sell the storylines. It is this wrestling journalism. There's this kind of weird balance you have to strike. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Right, where it came off as real life. Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
I just want to ask Justin this, or you as well. If this is 20 years ago, it's absolutely going to be just Becky and Ronda in a one-on-one scenario, because you don't have to deal with, you know, there's 2 pay-per-views between Rumble and Mania, which doesn't help, and all this time. But, you know, and the crowd would be less. Because with Ronda, the X Factor is what's she doing? You know, that was something, Justin, we all talked about last week. You know, Ronda, what appears to be an impending leave of absence from the WWE, kind of would only make a one-on-one result more inevitable to the audience. And you risk maybe, you know, you risk that apathy.
Yeah, Justin talked about that last week.
Yeah. So, like, to me, like, Charlotte being included and the heat that it draws, like, to bring it full circle, is a very 2019 thing. When I talk about, you know, evaluating wrestling in the present day is really a lot different than 10, 15, certainly 20 years ago. This is what I mean.
Yeah, Justin, if Twitter had been around in like for example, when Vince won the Royal Rumble, do you think we would have had this same kind of outrage at the time? And the fact that we didn't have instantaneous Twitter at the time kind of masked the fact that wrestling fans have always been really stupid about this kind of thing? Or what do you think?
I would have 100% been on Twitter complaining about Vince McMahon winning the Royal Rumble. 100%. I would have been the mark there. Luckily, I've grown up, and I think part of this is people are just still scarred from Daniel Bryan not, you know, being included in that Royal Rumble, and their real concerns about him not getting to go to Mania, and now they are legit just confused and scared of WWE booking.
Okay, and that is, again, we go to 2000. That's the fascinating thing, because I jotted a few notes down. Can WWE run angles like that? I mean, they're going to, but I'm fascinated. One of the things I'm fascinated about with this AEW is they seem to be a promotion that's very much into giving the fans what they want, right? But there's not any of that like people who want to think like Chris Jericho is doing this great heel work. Like, wake up. You know, like somebody was writing like Jay White. Maybe we'll touch on Jay White in a little bit. Your new IWGP champion, the Knife Pervert. You know, oh, when he injures the knee, that's heel heat. Is it in 2019?
Yeah.
Or is it just like, because like to me, it's not real heel heat. It's fans appreciating. Like, you know, it's not like no one's like, ooh, that Jay White, I can't believe he did that to Tanahashi's knee. Ooh, I hope he gets it. No one says that, right? I mean, like wrestling, the way it works is it's heels are supposed to get you mad. It's the point now where I mean, fuck, man, I would much rather sit in a crowd in 1986 Jim Crockett Promotions than with some of these idiots on Twitter.
I would have loved to have seen the Twitter takes in 1986 though too. I think a lot of this is just the platform of Twitter, people getting hot-headed about stuff. Look, I'm guilty. I've been known, as Kyle has pointed out in our conversations, to be a little emotional at times in the heat of the moment.
Settle down.
And I think just everyone getting emotional about wrestling, they put it out there on Twitter, and then it's like a domino effect, and then everyone gets in this uproar, and you can see what people are saying on Twitter versus in 1986. You have no idea what people are saying around the world until maybe in the newsletters, you know, a week later or whatever. But I don't know. It was kind of silly to watch, like you guys are saying, because this is pretty much pro wrestling 101 what they're doing, and I don't really have any problem with what's been happening.
Meltzer and Alvarez, I mean, we're the voice of reason for the WWE. When's the last time you could say that?
Yeah,
I mean, their board was filled with people that, I mean, did you subscribe to the Observer yesterday? I mean, do you not read what Dave? I mean, have you learned nothing?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that they're not behind Becky is lunacy. She was on Raw and SmackDown last week in segments with the McMahon family. All three. By the way, I thought Vince was absolutely tremendous on Monday. What an absolute freaking dude. Vince McMahon still is. He's got it. Still.
I feel like Vince kind of seems like he doesn't want to be on TV when he's out there, honestly.
Well, they say he doesn't, but like,
yeah, I mean, like it comes across though in his character work. I feel like he's just like going through the motions.
He'll get to his point, and you can see it. I think, you know.
Justin, did you have something you wanted to say a minute ago? I saw you raise the microphone down there here on YouTube.
Yep, I had a thought, and now it's kind of flared away.
Well, before we get to Elimination Chamber, a couple other topics we wanted to hit on. Kyle mentioned Jay White a second ago. So Jay White is the new IWGP heavyweight champion, defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi. And this gets into kind of an interesting comparison, or not really a comparison, but parallel with AEW, because as we talked about last week, we got Kenny Omega in AEW now. However, Kenny Omega's AEW contract does allow him to work New Japan Pro Wrestling, which I thought was pretty interesting. Now, Kyle, you've been pretty vocal in the show here in the past that you're not a big fan of Jay White, not a huge fan of his work. Do we think the only reason he won the title is he's kind of a stand-in for Kenny Omega now that Omega, they're not going to put the IWGP heavyweight title back on Omega since he's with All Elite. He could work some shows here and there, but that's probably not going to be happening. So is he for them the new Kenny Omega? What did you think of that, Kyle?
Yeah, according to Meltzer, he is.
Yeah,
he pretty much was. You don't want to use. It wasn't a panic move, but it was. They were blindsided somewhat by Omega leaving, and Tanahashi was obviously a stopgap. As much as people love him and Okada, that's not exciting for either of them to be champion right now. I just don't think. I mean, particularly Okada. He just lost after that long run. So I think I understand why they did it, but everything about Jay White screams replacement level. I mean, you guys are both baseball fans, right? It's not just that he's sort of like, he's a foreign heel and he's quote unquote replacing Omega in that championship role. When he works, and this is kind of my issue with him, like, I feel he's just trying to like cosplay an Okada Tanahashi match when he's in there with either of the two. Like, I was not a big fan of either of those matches so far. I feel, and this is true for any main event wrestler, what is a Jay White match? I don't think we know that. I don't think it's fair to say, oh, this is shit. The New Japan's done. I'm not a fan of Jay White's in-ring work particularly, but that's not to say it can't work. They had to go with something new. Now, obviously, there is someone on this roster who many would say they bungled in 2018, and they couldn't go to him right now, and that's a damn shame.
Yeah, Naito is who you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I did want to say with All Elite too. Obviously, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about this on the show. All of us are big fans of what they're doing. We hope they're very successful because it makes wrestling a hell of a lot more exciting than it's been in a long time. If we do have a viable second promotion with a lot of money behind it, they had some success. Well, definitely had some success this week selling out
putting it mildly.
Double or Nothing. So they had a pre-sale. I believe that was on Monday. And almost all of the tickets went in the pre-sale. There were a lot of people that had the vaunted pre-sale codes that Dave Meltzer, Kyle's boy, said meant there were so many pre-sale requests that, damn, this show could have done more people than every show in North America but WrestleMania, which I think is a huge stretch. I couldn't believe he said that. But there were a lot of pre-sale requests out there, which just means there's a lot of people. There's people thinking about buying the tickets. Now, it doesn't mean like everyone wanted to buy the tickets. Like for me, for example, I signed up for a pre-sale because I was wondering maybe I'll go to it, maybe I won't. I ended up deciding not to go, but I'm one of those people, and a lot of people did that, I'm sure.
You weren't the only person who contacted me that did that. Like, I actually think it's kind of, I don't want to say it's weird. I hope that's not insulting to you. But like, I would be like, oh, to me, if you sign up for the code, you're pretty serious. But I had like another guy I know that I went to Mania with last year was like, hey, is anyone interested in this? I have a pre-sale code. So that's 10 people down for Meltzer's attendance.
Yeah,
like,
so they helped
5 for every pre-sale code, I think, according to
it doesn't mean all those people, like his average was like every one of those people's buying 3 tickets or something. That was just insanity. That's not how it works. But there was a lot of demand, a lot of people thinking about going. They sold almost all those tickets on that pre-sale. They held back some tickets for the general on sale, I'm assuming because they had to. And then the very limited, I actually logged in on the on sale today to check it out, and there was only a few sections that were even possible to buy that they had listed before they went on sale. So very few tickets today, and those all went within 4 minutes and they were gone. So I guess technically they can say they sold out in less than 4 minutes. Most of them went in the pre-sale. So they're going to have close to 15,000 fans at the MGM Grand, which is awesome. Now, the true story for AEW will be, can they do this on a consistent basis? Because right now you have limited shows. Everyone's jacked for them. A lot of demand for that one event. When they start rolling out the weekly or semi-weekly events later this year, that'll be the true story when we see what kind of a draw the promotion is at that point, Kyle.
And that's why I actually think, I'll challenge Meltzer on this one. I think them running smaller buildings at first is actually a smart idea because it's going to keep the demand there. Because the people who didn't get in are going to still want to go. If you ran some huge thing, let's say they drew 40,000. Let's say Meltzer's right. Let's say they actually could draw 40,000 crowd. How many then of those people are going to be willing to come back the next time? There's probably a good amount. But you're not going to get 40,000 again if everyone got in the first time.
It's kind of funny too, because Dave was the guy that said they couldn't draw 10,000, and that's why they did All In. And now he's reversed from they couldn't draw 10,000.
Now they can do 93,174.
This is the WrestleMania promotion now, so we will see what happens. But I don't know if any of you guys have any.
My hat's off to them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what they're doing. I hope it's tremendously successful. I'll be watching the show here at home for sure, and I would like to get to a All Elite Wrestling show at some point in the future. When they run Chicago, the Sears Center again, I would say a very good chance that I would try to go to that show. Justin, would you be interested in heading to Chicago with me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was some. I think I read something about maybe like the sequel to All In would for sure be there in the fall. So we will see, but maybe we can have a Top Rope Nation convention in Chicago.
Chicago's kind of a good meeting spot for us.
That's true. Ohio, Iowa, kind of right there in the middle. So we'll stay tuned for that. Anything else we wanted to hit before we go into Elimination Chamber?
We should offer condolences to the family of Pedro Morales, should we not?
Yeah, Pedro Morales, WWE Hall of Famer. 1995, he was inducted into the WWF Hall of Fame at the time. I think
the third class.
Yeah, that's right, because 93 with Andre was the first. And so yeah, definitely condolences to a legend. I've seen, a few Pedro Morales matches in my life, but not a ton of them. But I have respect for what he did and kind of paving the way for the industry. And 76 years old, I believe I read.
Yeah. When Bruno passed, I think it's not even disputable that pre-Hogan, most important guy in the WWE, then WF, 3 Ws. There. Pedro Morales is an argument for number 2 with Bob Backlund.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I would agree. Justin, any thoughts on Pedro Morales?
Nope. Rest in peace.
All right. Giving him the Undertaker treatment. Here we go. That was bad taste. My bad. Yeah. No, but for sure. Rest in peace. A legend of the sport for sure. So let's get into this Elimination Chamber preview. Let's get the listeners ready. Again, you can win some cash on this show through our guys at WrestleRumble.com. And we're just going to, like we usually do with these pay-per-view preview shows, go through it match by match, thoughts on the storylines leading up to the matches, and who's going to win. I'll just take it around the horn here. So usually these shows between the Rumble and Mania are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they're pretty good. Other times they just feel like placeholder shows. This one, I don't know. What is your excitement level heading into the Elimination Chamber, Justin?
I'm excited for the Elimination Chamber matches, but the other ones just feel like Raw and SmackDown matches, especially the Raw side matches are just meh.
Mm-hmm. Kyle?
Yeah, it's pretty low. 2 chamber matches.
Yeah, not a fan.
Just because I talk now, I think it just I don't. 2 Rumbles, 2 chamber matches, 2 Money in the Banks. It's just 2 Hell in the Cells. Now, I just I think it cheapens it.
Yeah,
I think every match should be an Elimination Chamber match.
Oh no.
I believe
Lethal Lockdown is brought
back. I believe this will be the 25th and 26th Elimination Chamber matches in WWE history.
And what is okay? I thought of this earlier. I'm glad you would say something like that because At one random part where I was pacing around my house this week, I thought of this as a question for the show.
I would love to be a fly on the wall when you're just pacing around thinking of this kind of stuff.
Oof. It's a scary scene, man. What's the best chamber match? You know, like last year around this time, I tried watching a bunch of them, and God, do they all run together for the most part.
I'm not sure I could answer that. I mean, honestly, I like the first one.
I knew you were because it sort of sticks out.
Yeah. It's fresh. Michael's his only championship victory in his comeback between 02 and 2010. Although he wore the worst tights he ever wore. I put that out on our Twitter page last night. My God, I don't know what those brown tights that were apparently unfinished he wore in that match. But no, it was so unique at the time. It was at Survivor Series, by the way. Elimination Chamber didn't become a standalone until like 2010, I believe, as its own pay-per-view. But you're right, Kyle. They all just kind of run together. I don't know that I could.
It's like the Money in the Bank matches we talked about. And, I liked the 05 one from New Year's Revolution in Puerto Rico. Remember that? What a random pay-per-view that was, where they were really kicking into that Triple H Batista storyline.
I barely remember. You know, the thing I love about this podcast is you give me reason to go back and watch old matches every single week. You always throw out something like that I have to turn on like after. I usually turn it on, honestly, when I'm editing the podcast for like the audio version that we put out on iTunes and everything, and then the video one here on YouTube. I always want something on in the background, and it's almost every week some match that Kyle just randomly mentioned on the show.
But since they, like Hell in a Cell, too. Since it became a pay-per-view where it's like, hey, it's February, it's time for the Chamber, it's October, it's time for the Cell. They all just kind of run together. The one that Bray Wyatt won was good. I remember that.
Was that 2 years ago?
That was the one I was going to say, but then I second guessed if that's only because I liked the finish. Like I couldn't really remember the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know what wasn't good? Bray Wyatt's title run.
And the loss to Mr. Randall Orton. Yes.
Okay. All right. I don't give a damn what either you say. The ending of SmackDown Live.
No, I like that.
Tuesday, February 12th, 2019, the year of our Lord, was absolutely phenomenal. Did you guys anticipate that? Because I'm looking at the clock, and AJ and Kofi are still out there. I'm like, they're not going to have much time for this last. I'm like, oh, Orton's going to come out, hit an RKO out of nowhere and win. I was hoping he was going to do it to Kofi. Give me some, but then again, online, the folks on Twitter, what are you doing, man? You're burying Kofi.
Oh my God, that was the Kofi Kingston show. They couldn't have hardly put him over any more strongly than they did.
Well, not according to some of these jabrones.
But you got to leave these people wanting for something more. Like, I don't get what people don't know. So now you got to wait to see Kofi and Orton for the Chamber, right? If you want to see those two go at it, wait for this Sunday. So
I don't know, man. Apparently, just got to give the people right what they want when they want it. Now.
Yeah.
No such thing as angles.
All right. So let's start out with what's surely going to be on the kickoff show, which again will probably be in the running for match of the night, and that's our Cruiserweight Championship match. So we got Buddy Murphy defending against Akira Tozawa, former champion himself.
Took some heavy shots at Pac, by the way, on 205 Live this week.
What's that?
He kind of pot-shotted, Pac.
And he was one of the few people that beat him during his run a couple years ago. Yeah,
that was referenced. So, that was what a beaut.
So I was doing some research. I don't believe Tozawa's ever been beaten by Murphy in a one-on-one match. So it's interesting. I don't see them taking the title off of Buddy Murphy at this point, but it should be a really good match. Justin, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't think it's time to take the title off of Buddy Murphy. I'd wait to do something at WrestleMania. But my question to you guys is like, what 2 or 3 guys? Who's next in line for that title?
That's a very good question. There is a dearth of contenders right now on 205 Live. With some guys getting moved around. Leo Rush. From his tweets makes you think that he's leaving the show entirely. Mustafa Ali, obviously, now on SmackDown. Somebody brought the Death Valley Driver account tweeted this, and I completely agreed that if there wasn't such a negative connotation to Cruiserweight, Chad Gable would be a great fit in that division, because he's never going to get seriously pushed on the main show. You know, he fits, and he kind of gives you there's a different presentation with him than a lot of the other guys. And I think Chad Gable, Buddy Murphy, obviously would be a banger.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Justin. That's a really good question. We know it's not going to be Kenny Omega, right, Kyle?
Would have been a great hand on the program. I wanted, you know, selfishly, I kind of wanted him to do another match with Humberto Carrillo. You know, I thought him and Murphy, that was a pretty good match, and I really like Humberto. But we're going to Tozawa, and Tozawa's not going to win.
No. So we're all in agreement.
It's not the least likely outcome Tozawa winning on this whole show, but it's up there.
Yeah. All right. IC title match, handicap match. We've got Bobby Lashley defending with Lio Rush at his side. Although if Lio Rush loses, he can lose the title for Bobby Lashley against your guy Finn Balor, Mr. Joint. Is Finn Balor going to get it done, Justin?
First off, I would just like to say how much I hate handicap matches. I think I feel about handicap matches like a lot of people do about triple threats. I just feel like if they're going to put the Intercontinental title on Finn, you wait and you do it at WrestleMania.
So that's my question. Do you think they can draw it out that long? Because I was thinking that earlier today too, and then I was kind of wondering if they could have him chasing for 2 months. What do you think?
No. I mean, like, you know, it's funny. A lot of people said that, you know, the WWE was burying Finn after he got beat by Lesnar at Royal Rumble, but man, I think putting him into a feud with Bobby Lashley is much more of a bury.
Yeah. Well, I do think he'll be a good IC champion at some point. I don't know that the change is going to happen here. In fact, I would pick Bobby Lashley also. If this was the final show before WrestleMania, I would say for sure Balor's going to win it at Mania. There's another pay-per-view on the way there.
You guys, the answer's right there. Just say it. It's on the tip of your tongue.
That he's going to win it at Fastlane?
Yes.
Okay, and then carry it into Mania.
Yeah, because that match is actually, there is a Finn Bobby Lashley. And again, these things change. But the local advertising here has already changed, which makes me think that they do know the top 3 matches on that card. And for the record, people who have not seen the local advertising, it's been shared online and circulated. It will be Becky and Charlotte, which will be either for the challenger spot or just for Becky to get re-added to the match, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
There was an AJ, Bryan, Samoa Joe triple threat advertised. And then Finn and Bobby for the Intercontinental title. So there's only 2 possible outcomes to me in this match here at Chamber Sunday. One is Lashley retains through various nefarious heel handicap ways, you know, where they use the 2-on-1 thing to their advantage, which is, I suppose, good psychology. Or 2 would be Finn pins Lio Rush to win the title. I don't like the idea of the babyface pinning the heel manager.
No, I don't like that either.
Title. So my guess is it's going to be heel shenanigans. Lashley retains here, and then Finn wins it in a one-on-one environment at Fastlane. Do we all agree that Finn eventually is going to be the Intercontinental Champion?
Yes, I think he was made for it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've been saying that's a great spot for him, and I think it will. But I mean, like when I say he's eventually going to be the Intercontinental, I mean like by Mania. Like this is the feud. I believe Finn Balor will take the Intercontinental title from Bobby Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Sunday or Fastlane, we shall see. But yeah, I guess my official pick is Lashley and Leo go over here.
Same. Okay. Raw and Women's.
Wanted to bring one more thing up.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a philosophical. Meltzer was like losing his mind that Lio Rush, who's a heel manager, was not working, you know, like J.J. Dillon used to in 1987. What did you guys think of like that Balor-Lio Rush match where Lio Rush, like very much, you know, was working like a cruiserweight? Looked good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fun match, but like, did you guys have a problem with Lio Rush basically not wrestling like a traditional heel manager and kind of wrestling almost as if he perceived himself to be the equal of Finn Balor?
No, I thought it was really good. And you can't, I mean, Leo Rush, we've seen him in the ring before. We know like the type of wrestler he is. It'd be kind of weird if he just all of a sudden like started working a limb or poking eyeballs or something.
Yeah, if he lost the ability to do like all of his high spots because he's on Raw.
No, I agree. He has a history in the promotion, so you can't ignore that. So no, I had no problem with that at all. All right, Ronda Rousey defending against Ruby Riott. Obviously, this is a foregone conclusion on who's going to win. I don't think anyone's going to pick Ruby Riott here, but we can kind of talk about this from an angle of what are they going to do with Ruby in this match? Is she going to make it competitive? Because here's someone who I think we would all agree is incredibly talented. The Riott Squad has not been positioned too strongly in recent months, but there's been times where it looked like they were big fans of Ruby Riott in particular. And this is a match where even though she's going to come up short, they can make her into a legitimate contender. If she pushes Ronda Rousey to the limit, I think that would be a good thing. Obviously, she's not going to win. What do you think, Justin?
No, I agree with you. I think she's going to get a good match out of this. And, talking about, Ronda maybe taking a leave of absence, it certainly feels that way with the way they seem to be cramming in all these, I wouldn't say dream matches, but matches you'd really want to see her have, like, Sasha and then Bayley and now Ruby Riott. They're kind of knocking them all out of the park, right now, instead of waiting for any of them or building to a big match with any of them.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kyle.
I feel that they should have waited to do this match at Fastlane. I feel like they've really done a disservice to Ruby Riott. An in-character tweet kind of hinted at that. Or maybe she was shooting. Maybe she really felt that way, that she's really getting slighted, according to some people. Probably thought that. But, I feel like the program just got started. Like, they didn't even really... There was a story to tell here, even if no one buys the notion of Ruby winning. You really could have built up, oh, Ronda, you think you're going to be, headline WrestleMania. Well, what about me? But they didn't even do that. They gave her a win on Raw, Ruby, and that was basically it. I mean, Ronda's kind of been window dressing for the whole Becky thing that's gone on the last 2 weeks. I feel that this match shouldn't actually be happening. Because I don't know what you do with Ronda at Fastlane then. Don't you think that man, just give it a couple weeks build and just do it at Fastlane instead?
Yeah.
Maybe they looked at the card and felt they needed Ronda on it, but I just feel it is kind of a disservice done to Ruby in this situation, and she has zero chance, less than zero chance.
Yeah.
I alluded to it earlier that Tozawa was not, the least likely winner. Ruby Riott is the least likely winner.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so let's now go to Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin for one of the most meaningless matches of the night. I'm not sure anyone's invested in this one at this point. Braun Strowman just really is not as special as he used to be, and that is unfortunate.
They should not have inserted him into that world title picture if he wasn't going to win it. We all three of us, and who was with us on the post show for Money in the Bank?
I think it was just us three on that one.
Wasn't there a good friend Bill Matz from the City of Brotherly Love? I feel he was on that.
He might have been. He was on one right around that time. We got to get Bill back on this show too. By the way, Bill, if you're listening,
what
shout
hockey
out.
Analysis he gives, by the way, on Twitter. By the way,
Broad Street Hockey, check him out.
Yeah. We were all in agreement, man. Braun is someone who should exist. I mean, I've said this probably 72 times in the last 6 months. He should exist outside the world title picture. There was an argument that once Roman had to leave, Braun could have been a stopgap champion. Instead, they chose to beat him. He hasn't got that win back yet. I assume it's going to happen in Saudi Arabia against Brock Lesnar. I would hope he gets that win. Because at least then with Saudi Arabia, as disgusting as that whole situation is, at least they have the money to pay Brock to do a second job out the door. But that's the issue with Braun to me, because you're right. He has cooled, and it's because they inserted him into a world title picture, and he did not win the title.
Well, the
That's
roots of this match.
Babyface character.
Speaking of Saudi Arabia, I mean that's the roots of this match. You go back to Crown Jewel, where Corbin cost Strowman the match, and I guess this is your payoff. They couldn't do it because Braun got injured shortly after that, and so now we're finally getting it. So
didn't they kind of pay it off at TLC though? I mean, I know that they did that thing where 8 guys attacked Corbin because Braun was still hurt, but
Yeah, I don't know. It was like the handicap that. Yeah, I don't. Another handicap match, Justin's favorite. Yeah.
To your point, I mean, there's a lot of match because this card was pretty thin going into this final week, this go home week. There's a lot of matches they could have added. This one would not have been high on my list.
No,
personally, it just feels like we've seen it.
Well, it made absolutely no sense for Corbin to get the win here, so I have to go with Strowman. I would say this is one's pretty close to a lock as well.
Yeah, I agree. I wish they would have held off on the Revival title change and put that match on the Elimination Chamber card. Although it may have not gotten enough time, and that was just an incredible match on Monday.
Yeah, it was good. Last to your point, Ryan, you mentioned that people have been tweeting this Raw is kind of a slog, more of a 3-hour slog than usual. The last half hour or 40 minutes was great with the tag title change and that closing angle, and then just if you take that part and put it into a 2-hour Raw instead of a 3-hour Raw, all of a sudden you've got a pretty damn good show.
Yeah.
3-hour Raws, they're not going away, but it's tough to make them good. Consistent.
Yeah. So you're going with Braun too, I assume, Kyle.
Yes.
All right.
Dear God, they can't.
God, we would hope so. All righty. So Miz and Shane and the Usos, the SmackDown tag titles. So I got to assume that they're going to plant the seeds for this Miz-Shane WrestleMania match, most likely pretty soon. They're going to drop the titles before Mania. Could be here, Fastlane. I think I'm going to go with the title switch right here with the Usos winning. I thought the Usos were really good on SmackDown this week. Again, as Kyle would say, one of the top 10 tag teams in WWE history. Maybe you would go top 5.
Oh, yeah, I'd go top 5.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Usos winning the titles here, and we get kind of the start of the slow build towards Miz and Shane. Mr. Joint?
I think they hold off for a little bit, build the togetherness just a little bit more before they do the breakup. So I'm going to go with the awkward pairing of McMiz.
Okay, Kyle?
Will we be able to bet on how many MMA moves Shane McMahon does in this match?
At least half his offense.
Okay. Yeah, they're going to Miz and Shane are eventually going to break up. Man, this is not my deal, but people are into this, I feel. I feel like I'm in the minority with this Miz-Shane pairing. Like, it's just like, I don't like the Miz as a babyface. Like, I don't think he's effective in that role. I just think he's such a natural heel, but people are into it, so God bless them. Isn't this match going to tell us perhaps a lot about the Usos' future? That is the story to me.
Mm-hmm.
The story behind the scene, because they want to keep them.
Oh, yeah.
You probably put them over here, because remember the Usos made a big thing, and some people will raise their eyebrows. Were the Usos, one of the teams ever? What have they done? And they've only been on the WrestleMania card once? You smell what The Rock is cooking?
That's The Rock raising his eyebrows, holding up to the camera there.
There we go. But you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, if you want to keep the Usos, you put the titles on them and you get them on that Mania card. But if they lose here and they're like a non-factor at Mania, let them AEW rumors begin. And, if there is a little logic to the Usos leaving. If there was somebody who it makes a lot of sense to leave the Usos, like, where's the upward mobility really as a tag team for them? And, man, I think a lot of people could really find out how good they really are in the pantheon of WWE teams, ironically, if they left WWE and worked the Young Bucks. I think people can appreciate a further appreciation for their WWE career if they left.
Mm-hmm. All right. So who'd you get for your winner then? You think they're going to do it here? Kyle?
Not a lot of title change. I mean, we're obviously guaranteed one new champion in the women's chamber, but what do I want to pick here? Because I don't know. It's all about whether or not they're going to retain, like, the company's going to retain the Usos, I feel. If Miz and Shane don't drop it here, who would they drop it to? I mean, we know when. It could be Fastlane, but, like, who's the other option that they could drop it to? I mean,
I see nobody on that heel side.
I mean, I guess it could be like anybody.
It could still be the Usos just later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it could just be in a rematch or something. Yeah, like on Smack.
I mean, it's not like
I'm going to say they're going to hold off. I'm with Justin. I think they're going to hold off on the turn, and Miz and Shane will retain.
All right. So for the record, I think we've all said so far pretty much everyone retaining their titles. So I think I'll stick with this one. This being a title switch on this show, and that will be the only title switch to tell you where I'm going on the later main events. But we'll get to that here in just a second. But let's go to the women's tag title, the inaugural women's of this era WWE Tag Team Champions, because I believe the WWF had women's tag team champions way back when. But of the WWE
Rumble
era,
80.
their first women's tag champions.
Yeah, Rumble 80, or you can watch. Actually, there was a good Madison Square Garden match between the Jumping Bomb Angels and the Glamour Girls. Late '87, you can watch. Legit, it was good. They were doing power bombs, man.
I remember talking about the Jumping Bomb Angels on this broadcast before. Actually, there you go. All right, so this one is a little more difficult to pick, I feel like. And I've kind of been going back and forth on this. I see 3 possible teams I could see winning it.
Oh,
Same here.
Yeah, everyone's picking Sasha and Bailey. It seems really obvious, so I'm not going to pick them. Kyle, let me go to you first. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Let's see here. You're gonna use me to maybe make your pick. So let's talk about Sasha.
Don't
Bailey.
give yourself that much credit, my friend.
Let's talk about Sasha Bailey because I think the booking, regardless if they win, revolves around them because either they win here, which seems predictable, or you have them chase whoever wins.
That was my thought. So of my third team that I thought I was possibly considering,
because I only got 2.
Mandy and Sonya.
Okay.
But the reason I'm not going to go with them is because then the titles are on the different show, and I do think that Sasha and Bailey are going to be a focus. So this is why I'm leaning towards the team of Nia and Tamina right now, with Sasha and Bailey chasing.
I agree with you.
My God, what just happened?
I dare David Vix's best friend Corey Graves to say something.
Oh, I was wondering if that was going to come up.
This is the first Snuka to hold gold in the WWE. I wonder if he's got the balls to say that. Tamina Snuka's very bad, by the way. I mean, I try to always look for.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of performers that aren't as bad as people think, but good Lord, Tamina Snuka's worse than people say. She is the worst in-ring performer in this company.
The reason I think I was thinking Mandy and Sonya, they're a good team. They get along well off air. They've got like a YouTube show they're doing together where they go to donut shops and stuff. WWE loves that kind of thing where they branch out outside of the TV shows. Obviously, we've talked about how they're really high on Mandy. It's pretty clear watching the shows, but if you're going to keep Sasha and Bailey in the mix, it's got to be a Raw team. Justin?
I actually thought my third team was the Iconics. I thought they actually had a chance. But I'm going to go with Bailey and Sasha. It seems like there'd be a nice, I don't know if symmetry is the right word, but with the way the women's elimination chamber went when Sasha kind of really turned on Bailey, and that, later on, this is where they really come together and become the first, which I think that's important too, the first women's tag team champions. And I don't know if you want Tamina attached to that title.
That's a good point. Since they are establishing a first championship, do you want it to just be someone who's just going to lose it in 6 weeks? Maybe. That's kind of the nature of all the TV, right? Maybe you just do that. But again, if this was a different era, I think Sasha and Bailey would be locks that you would want them as the first champion. Justin with me too. So,
yeah. Are you sticking with Nia and Tamina then, or are you switching?
They're not like most girls. Yeah.
All right, I'm sticking with them too. Okay, split decision there. So let's go to the main event and see if we agree on this one. So Kyle, you mentioned the triple threat with AJ, Samoa Joe, and Bryan being advertised for Fastlane. Could be a clue as to who's gonna kind of be in the ending of this match. I could see a switch. If it happened, I'd think Samoa Joe. But I just think Bryan is doing such good work now. He's got the new title belt. I can't see him switching the title right now. I'm picking Daniel Bryan. Justin?
Totally agree with you. That the work he's doing as a heel is tremendous. That belt is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's eco-friendly. I think it would just be weird to switch now. I don't know. Nobody really intrigues me all that much outside of Kofi, and I don't see that happening.
Okay. Mr.
People
Ross.
are working themselves to that shoot, though. Once again.
He deserves it.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that he wouldn't, but like I just think that like WrestleMania season's the wrong time to do a Kofi Kingston cup of coffee title run.
I 100% agree with you.
Part of the problem with this match is I have no idea where they're going at Mania with the SmackDown title. I actually think that hurts it because, anything can happen, people say, but I just, I reserve all judgments on the booking here until I have any inclination where they're going with this title.
I mean, there's always that storyline with Joe and AJ, and if you did have Samoa Joe win the title, you could have AJ chase into Mania, especially if you're going to do something with Bryan, like with John Cena, like we've talked about on this broadcast before. If that Cena-Bryan stuff isn't happening, I think Bryan has to be in the title picture, and you can't have a heel Daniel Bryan chasing into WrestleMania. It doesn't really make much sense, so I would think Bryan carries it into Mania at that point.
Unless if he's out of the title picture. Like, Bryan, unless he's not in the title match.
Which beyond him wrestling Cena, I just can't see happening.
So let's look at the 6. Okay, Jeff Hardy, 0 chance of winning. Like, he's got the least chance, right? I don't even think that's argument.
Yeah.
Randy Orton, here's the old, this maybe isn't outdated. I think this is actually outdated, but, based on the fact that Orton went to over on SmackDown, I don't think he's winning. Joe, I've said it before, I think they view him as a utility player, not a champion. I don't think he's winning. So that leaves Bryan, AJ, and Kofi. Kofi should be in this match for a while. They got him over on SmackDown. I don't think he should, but I just said I don't think now is the right time to do a cup of coffee run with him. Go back to AJ? I don't know if that's very exciting.
No,
so,
I wouldn't like that either.
I just kind of think it's Daniel Bryan by default here. And man, I would like some inclination of where we're going at Mania soon.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time. I had to double check this. Would not be the first time Daniel Bryan retained his championship in an Elimination Chamber match. He did it in 2012 when he was the World Heavyweight Champion.
We all remember what happened at WrestleMania that year.
So, yeah. So I think, are we all in agreement Bryan's retaining then? I thought someone would go for a surprise here, but nobody? Everyone, Bryan? Okay. So there it is. Elimination Chamber this Sunday on the award-winning WWE Network, guys. Check them out at Wrestle Rumble. Win some cash off the show. Guys, did we miss anything you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up?
We had it all.
Do you guys know that the Scarecrow pulled a gun in Wizard of Oz?
Is that like the shadow thing or something going on in the background?
That's something else.
Oh, that was like the dwarf supposedly hanging in the background, right?
Yeah. No, he legit pulled a revolver when they're going into the scary forest thing.
You get it all here on Top Rope Nation.
Second Amendment. Even extends to Oz.
Kyle Ross's favorite amendment, number 2, right there.
Yeah, number 2 is right.
I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and maybe it was the Corey Graves stuff. I can't remember, but no. Corey Graves did not come off well on Twitter. Really bad day. And the next day he was still going after it. So
I don't know. Some of these people just lay off. Interact like I get why to interact if you're the non-celebrity, interacting with celebrities is cool, but man, if you're like the celebrity or pseudo-celebrity or whatever, you gotta not interact. Unless if it's like just sending out positive vibes on Friday. I mean, you gotta steer clear of that, Corey.
Yeah. Could just rewind a few months, Kyle. You could have told him this face to face. He walked past that fine drinking establishment that us 3 were in down in great state of Louisiana. That's WrestleMania weekend.
This year I could hit him and say that was for Bix.
Oh man, good stuff. All right, guys.
Justin's got his hand raised. I don't know if he's stretching or if he has a armpit issue or what's going on there.
I've got a question. We can just
Justin.
We can make this real quick. I just want to get your guys' opinion. Do you have any thoughts on Dean Ambrose coming out and saying "Slay the Beast" with an apparent babyface turn. Any thoughts on what's going on with him right now?
Didn't he? So he's supposedly going off script is the last thing I heard.
Yeah. He did not say word for word what they told him to. Yes.
Yeah.
Is what the report was.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not reading too much into it at this point. I do still think there's a chance they could convince him to stay. I don't think the announcement that he was leaving was a work like some people, but it is. Hey, it's keeping him interesting. That's for sure.
It's funny because he became when that was announced, he kind of became a babyface to the crowd.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The blurred. Well, the fans love that blurred line of reality stuff, so that's always going to draw him in.
Do we all agree though that for the Rollins-Lesnar scenario at Mania, best possible ending, Rollins going over, Ambrose and Reigns coming out to celebrate with him?
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
And there's a shield, and it would be cool to see Reigns back. Obviously, maybe that's Ambrose's send-off.
Was the original plan for Mania was a Shield match, right? Like a triple threat.
Ambrose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unfortunately, we didn't get that.
Rollins was even supposed to. Well, I don't think that people like seeing the Shield feud. It's failed twice.
I mean, history would show that they don't. You're right.
I mean, that Ambrose heel turn bombed. I mean, I'm talking Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Oh, okay? Too soon.
I mean, yeah. It's been. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
And why do they have EC? EC3 is a terrible babyface, by the way. Why? Am I wrong about that? Why?
No, I just haven't been a fan of the way he's been portrayed. Like, he's good on the mic and he barely talks. Yeah. The whole thing has just been strange.
All they have to do is like that screen pointing thing. That's kind of bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, his whole NXT run, he was pretty much a babyface, and I get that he kind of got the big reaction at first, but it's kind of like Bobby Roode in a sense where Full Sail fucked it all up. Because they love that song so much, they set it up where it's like, oh, everyone likes Bobby Roode. We'll make him a babyface on the main roster.
Terrible.
Bobby Roode's a horrible babyface. A good tag wrestler, though. I think, him and Chad Gable, they did lose the titles, and I don't know if they were a great team necessarily. I don't know if they had the chance to get over, but I think they're both great tag wrestlers, Chad Gable and Bobby Roode.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, guys. Well, if you're listening to this episode's dropping a day earlier than usual because we normally record on Thursday nights, but that is Valentine's Day this week. So us married men have to spend the night with our ladies doing whatever we're going to do that night. But
I'm eating lobster tomorrow. I can't wait.
That's true. We almost did a double date, Justin and myself, but we had bought tickets to differing events. But
after the date, I'm going to want to do the wild thing. You want lobster? Oh, I'm thinking Burger King.
Oh man, big plans at the Ross household.
Love Ice Cube with all my heart and soul,
man. So what I was gonna say is if you're listening,
shit, by the way, I mean, I use my parents too often this month to go out, and they were like, a fourth time in a week you need it. So
yeah, babysitting.
Yeah,
nice. Well, if you're listening on Thursday, have a good Valentine's Day. If you are listening this weekend, again, try to beat us on Wrestle Rumble's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view contest. Win some cold hard cash. Get all the details at Top Rope Nation and at WrestleRumble.com. We'll be talking with you guys next week with episode 86. This has been episode 85 of Top Rope Nation. I am Ryan Drosty for Kyle Ross and Justin Joint. Check you guys all out next week.
Peace.
You're all suspended for 60 days.